Hello everyone and welcome to pitskill.io, where we return with the Porsche Cup sponsored by SimQuips at a very, very wet Suzuka. This is going to be an interesting race in cars that, need I remind you, do not have traction control, as we see, I believe that is Sam McCarthy going for a little spin in the background. The drivers head on to their first, I was going to say flying laps of the session, but yeah, perhaps we'll get there eventually, but a bit more tentative to start with at least, but gives us time to, oh geez, conditions out there do look very tricky for our drivers, but it does mean more entertainment for us, so yeah, we shan't complain. That does give us a little bit of an opportunity to take a look at the standings for our championship, as we have got Reese Tattersall leading the way, who unfortunately cannot race tonight, so does give the likes of Chris Wright a chance to catch up in the standings. We'll also be missing Ryan Ware, our third place driver, so yeah, should be a good opportunity to see for Chris Wright and Sam McCarthy. And going down this order, we have got Christian Figgy in P5, Bernhard Bendel in P6, Ash Fahey P7, Steve Goosens P8, Johan Leffel P9, who's a relatively new driver to pitskill.io. So yeah, if you're thinking of joining us, we accept both new and veteran drivers into the Porsche Cup. All you need to be able to do is keep these cars pointing in the right direction. And really, to be fair, even that is optional. In P10, we've got Oliver White. In P11, we have Oliver Seitz. In P12, Frank Moore, led by Harold Ketchelmeyer, Simon Eckland, and Alessandro Giovanni. As we head back over to our live driving, well, I think the first of the drivers who may have an opportunity to set a flying lap will be our series sponsor, Chris Wright, as he is the car furthest into a lap at the moment who hasn't invalidated it, which when I'm having to put out classifiers like that, you get an idea for quite how tricky the conditions must be for these drivers out on track, as Chris slides his way through Spoon Curve. This is going to be an absolute ballet of motorsports over the next 45 minutes or so. As we get down to 130R, one of the fastest corners in motorsport, and this is going to be interesting to see how these cars handle this in these conditions. That's right, taking it nice and easy there, just opting to play on the side of caution, had plenty of grip in hand as he comes around the final corner. Has kept it within track limits, I believe, so this should be the first of our valid flying laps of the session. Chris Wright comes to cross the line, and it will be a 2:27.275 first of our laps of the session, as Florent Demore rounds the final corner to give us what will be our second lap. I don't think this is going to be quite up to the pace that we've seen from Wright, but will be enough to get him on the board, which, well, looking at how the rest of the drivers are approaching this track, may be all you need, as Frank Demore crosses the line, goes P3, as Lorenzon crosses behind, sets him to P2. We've got a gaggle of drivers now coming across to complete their flying lap, although I believe only Leffe was on a valid lap, crosses the line to take provisional pole, a 2:23.722. A newcomer to the series, and relative newcomer to pitskill.io, Andy Hudson comes to cross the line with a, I don't know who that is, the number 110 car of Sienski, who's currently facing backwards. But Hudson does enough to himself P3 for now, and we're seeing quite a spread in the times. Yep, ranging from a 223 for Leffe all the way down to a 242.7 for Demore. So I think it's really just at the moment a matter of these cars getting it around in one piece. And that's alone going fast. Just get used to the conditions, find where there is the grip, and try and find some pace later in the session once you know what the car can and cannot do. As Sam McCarthy comes to cross the line, should be about 4 seconds away. It should be enough to put him in the top 3, I would think. Yep, that's in P2 with a 226.0 for McCarthy. Still with just under 7 minutes remaining of the session. Plenty of time to get some more laps in. As the Rozzers are out in force. Steve Goosens in the police liveried Porsche Cup car crosses the line P4, a 232.0, and he will go again. As drivers just finding their feet now, it seems, getting the machinery under control underneath them. It's actually Alvaro Cabrera going across the line in the no practice gang liveried Porsche Cup car. But with no practice, he has to pat himself on the back there with a 2:30 in these conditions. There's Faggy behind, crosses the line with a 2:30.7 as I believe that's Cabrera finding the grass, finding the wall, returning to the pit lane. As Joe Wilson comes to cross the line, will be able to slot himself into the top 5. Goes P4 for now, 227.9. As one of our quicker drivers, or at least one of the higher up drivers in the championship standings, yet to put in a lap time with Bernard Bendel. He's going to want to try and find himself a little bit of pace and, well, a little bit of control, I think, as he's currently on an outlap at the moment, so this won't be a valid lap time. But with this quite well populated grid for tonight's race, won't want to find himself starting too far back, as I suspect anyone lower placed than about 10th could be in for a little bit of a struggle at the race start in these conditions. Jump around to see who is looking to improve. Christian Faggy, who's currently on a 2:30.9, currently on an improving lap and finding the grip, finding where there's traction to be had. With physics as they are in ACC, you don't have to see drivers going off of the usual racing line as you might do in real world motorsport. You don't have that sort of water on top of rubber giving the ice-like conditions, so they can use the normal racing lines in the wet. As this should be quite the improvement for Faggy as he comes around at the final corner. One more traction zone to go. And we come across the line. This could be enough to take P2. Looking at the times at the moment, as he comes across the line right now, not quite. 225.377. Just a couple of tenths off of Chris Wright. As another driver on for a big improvement with this lap. The Marco Lorenzo, who's finding their feet under them. Has set themselves a decent banker and is now absolutely flying. They're in absolute chunks off their previous best. If they can just keep it within the track limits, going wide there in the final corner. But as he comes down to cross the start-finish line, finish this lap, should be enough to put him into the top 10. Oh, exactly 10th for Lorenzo. A good lap, and he will go again with just under 3 minutes remaining of the session. Sasinski rounding the final corner in a slightly battered and bruised car. But opting to stay out on track, which is probably the smartest idea in these conditions. The absolute performance of the car isn't probably going to be the limiting factor. More driverless feel, as we see Suzuka going with a 225, putting himself into P4, and I think, yeah, proving exactly what I was saying there, that a little bit of damage on your car is probably not going to hurt you as much as you get from the extra lap or the extra track time. But well, we'll see whether Suzuka decides to stay out after that one. It looked like quite a heavy hit into the wall. There's two of our championship contenders still sitting without lap times. We previously mentioned Bernhard Bendel still without a lap time, and wow, with an absolute drift around Spoon Curve. Hats off Bernhard Bendel, because we're going to get that one from another angle. That was absolutely beautiful, beautifully held. I was so sure that I was going off into the grass. It wasn't quick, but it looked fantastic. And just the final chicane to navigate now for Bendel. We've got yellow flags out. Shouldn't be an impact for Bendel as he rounds the final corner. And this should be enough to put him on the board, and actually quite a fast lap from Bendel. This could be enough to challenge the top three. In the end, only good enough for P6, but that is a good time to have on the board. Means we can start to build upon that. As another one of our championship contending drivers, Balazs Fahir, also without a lap time to his name. He's on a valid lap at the moment, but with traffic ahead, wants to not get caught out. And well, luckily for him, the car ahead just moving out the way, so he will hopefully get a chance to complete this lap. As he slides his way through the final corner, the rear kicking outwards. That crosses the line, and it's P2, so leaving it to the dying minutes. We will have time for one more lap, but that was nearly his final lap of the session, where he puts it on the front row. As well, performing under pressure is Balazs Fahir. As our current pole sitter, Johan Leffick, looks to stamp his authority on this session. Currently the fastest by 2.5 tenths, but has got some time in hand on this lap, and will be wanting to show the other drivers why he's been quite so dominant in our previous races as well. This could be an absolute stormer of a lap, as the track has been drying out. You can see it looks like the rain has stopped, so the faster times coming at the end of the session as Leffick crosses the line for a 2:21.6, a whole 2.3 seconds faster than any other driver has managed this session. And will Sam McCarthy be another driver to profit from the improving conditions? He crosses the line to go P2 with 2:22.6. And the times are tumbling. Now is the time to be out on track. Those who returned to garage and didn't carry enough fuel will be ruining that decision. As everyone who's completing their lap now seems to be finding jumping way up the order. And Simon Eklund, again another driver with heavy damage to the front of the car, just opting to stay out. As you see a car behind jump the final chicane, so that certainly won't be a valid lap. And as Eklund comes across the line, again should be a sizable improvement here, jumps up to P5. And if we have just one more driver who has the opportunity to complete a valid flying lap, that is Andy Hudson, brand new driver to this Porsche Cup Series. The final corner, so navigating a whole load of wheel spin coming out the final corner. And as he comes down to cross the line, this should be potentially good enough for top 10, as he's finding time all the way down the straight with much better traction than before. And P6 for Hudson. We'll go for a short break. We'll be back very, very shortly for tonight's race. As we return to a very wet grid here at Suzuka, we just have time to take you through the starting order for tonight's race. On pole position, we have got Johan Leffy, and joining him on the front row is Sam McCarthy. Behind we have Fahir and Messiah. Behind Eklund and Hudson. In P7 we've got Chris Wright, followed by Christian Fagey. We have Ribera and Sosinski. Bendel and Svobroba. Busso. Rex. We have Redhead and Wilson. Lorenzon and Goosens. Smith and Mann. Moore. Ketrelmeyer. And then at the back we have got Lenderman and Stanek. As our drivers start their engines and drive away, we are just one short formation lap away from the start of this race here at Suzuka. As Leffy drives the pack around. Have the opportunity to sit on board the driver and get an idea of what their view is going to be on the back of the field. This is with Stanek, and this is not at racing speed, need I remind you, and already the visibility not great, so it will be a challenge for these drivers once this race gets underway, just seeing their way into the first corner. And so for the a reminder of our championship standings and how things are affected here, we have got our second place driver Chris Wright currently starting in P6, but in P2 in this race is the number 4 driver Sam McCarthy. So McCarthy with a good opportunity here to, well, if not take the overall series lead, at least catch up to Ryan Ware and Chris Wright. Drivers so far keeping things under control, not seeing anyone bringing out the yellow flag during this formation lap. As the sun is already starting to set behind the clouds here in Japan, and with this amount of rain and clouds, visibility is going to be a challenge here during this race. As you can see already the spray being kicked up by the cars ahead, and the first run down towards 130 out. The pack remains this close is going to be an absolute nightmare for the drivers, as even our camera can't see to the back of this queue of cars. So as our drivers line up 2 by 2, we are very nearly ready to get underway here. Porsche Cup race here at Suzuka. Reminder to everyone, this will be a 30-minute race. with no pit stops, so just a straightforward sprint from lights to flag. It's a long run down to the start-finish line, not long at full throttle before they reach the first corner. Grid forms up behind. We are nearly ready to get racing here at Suzuka. And we have green lights. And looks like a good start for Leffe. Sam McCarthy holding in on the outside 2P2. There's Balazs Fahit keeping close, but we've got yellow flags out for Lenderman behind. But everyone else taking it nice and calmly through the first corner as we've got a car off. That is Chris Wright off the circuit. And Stanek too. And what has happened here with Chris Wright? Oh, just spinning off into the wall. Collected by, I believe that was, I think it might have been Lenderman as well. As they get going. At the front of the field, it is Leffe leading McCarthy and Fahit. As turn off the timing tower for a little bit longer while it works itself out. Now top three unchanged. Come through the hairpin and on to the back straight curve, whatever you want to call it, but usually flat out in the dry in a GT3 car. And seeming these drivers brave enough to keep it pinned through the back section. Battling in the midfield. As that's a kick from Sosinski. And also that is Hudson who's dropping back. And Cabrera and also just having to be careful there through 130R. Redhead also dropping back. These drivers just having to find their way, feel their way around with the conditions, which will be slightly different to what they were experiencing during qualifying. These drivers who had built up that confidence all throughout that qualifying session, it's all meaningless now, as this race appears to be much wetter than what we had at the end of the qualifying session, and these drivers just not handling the conditions so well as Messiah. Ooh. Needs to be careful not to rejoin and impede other drivers. Seems to be back on the track safely. Has got Joe Wilson and Sosinski for company. But now there's a long old train forming as Cabrera takes to the grass, bumping all over the grass. This is as much mayhem, I think, as we were expecting from this race. But good close racing from this midfield, as we've got a queue of about 8 cars, nose to tail through the second sector. We're bouncing his way through the Degners. As Chris Wright fights his way up. He's just got the move made on Goosens. Wright is going to want to try and make his way back towards the front to limit the damage done by McCarthy, who's currently sitting in P2. There's a good committed move there from Wright. And he's got a little bit of gap in front of him before he can get to Bendel. And 2.5 seconds up the road. Andy Hudson has got Cabrera in his sights. Cabrera goes very wide off onto the curbing, which must be awful slippery in these conditions. You can see up ahead Messiah running wide as well. So they're side by side coming down the long back straight towards 130R. It will be a brave driver who tries to sneak one up the inside at 130 yard, but it looks like Hudson might not even have a choice, as also not giving him much space to slot back into, as Busso has to run deep, and it's Hudson with the throttle on too much on the paint, it's into the wall. Also taking the opportunity to get past Cabrera, and getting a bit over there on the throttle. These cars, no traction control. The only traction control available is the driver's right foot. As we come down to start the third lap of this race. Already feels like we've been racing for ages here, only 2 laps in, as the conditions out there are so tricky for these drivers. As Wright is caught up to the back of Redhead. He's going to want to try and make his way through as quick as possible. This short sprint race format. The worst thing you can do is get caught up behind a slower car, and we know Chris Wright does have the pace. It's nice to find his feet in these conditions. We've got yellow flags out for Cabrera, who is spun up through turn 7. And what has happened to Cabrera? Oh! Just loses it on the throttle through turn 7. It doesn't look like there's any sort of contact or any warning the car was going to go. Just snapped on him. As Harry Redhead gets around the outside of Lorenzon, side by side, coming down the back straight. Next up will be Spoon Curve. Again, not a corner you really want to be trying to go side by side through in these conditions, as Lorenzon very nearly washes wide onto the grass. As Redhead and Lorenzon tackles Spoon. Close quarters, and this is superb racing, very fair racing between the two of them, leaving ample space. And next corner will be 130R, an even trickier corner to try and go side by side. And well, it's probably going to be down to who blinks here, as neither driver seems to want to do so, but it's Lorenzon who runs wide, and this could open the door to Chris Wright. He moves to the outside, he's going to try and switch back to the inside. Doesn't, just slots in behind. These drivers will head through the chicane at the end of the lap in single file, as that is Busso around at the final chicane. What has happened here? We come through 130R, nice and tidy for Busso. Into the chicane as they're oh no! Just a little bit of a snap under braking out onto the grass, and loses all grip. As we rejoin the battle between Lorenzon and Redhead. Redhead getting himself just a little bit of breathing room. Now got more yellow flags out for Svoboda, who collects the car and carries on, losing only a couple of positions, drops down to P6 behind Christian Fege. He now looks to challenge. Upwind ahead. Going deep on the brakes, gets the car sideways through Spoon. He's going to get a decent exit from the second part of Spoon Curve. And watching these cars heading through that corner always looks like they're all in mid-spin as they head through the curve, but all seemingly under control for Christian Fege. This battle for P4 as it's Svoboda who's closing in. earlier incident. Busso looking to move forward. Hudson runs wide through 130R. And that has allowed Busso through up into P16 as Suzuka looking to make a move around the outside of Hudson as well. Ends up having to slam on the brakes, gets it stopped, avoids a collision. And can start to chase down Hudson down the start-finish straight. See, it's not necessarily a race of who can stick the best to the racing line, more just who can carry the speed through the corners, as Suzuka tries to carry too much speed through the corners. And we've got yellow flags for Goosen. We've got just cars disappearing off the first corner, left, right and centre. What happened here with Goosen's heading into turn one? We might just catch the start of this. On the brakes. Oh, and it's a collision with Busso. Busso trying to send one up the inside. Collects Goosen's. They both go round. There's Svoboda. And that looks like Faggy running wide at the hairpin. Svoboda gets on the throttle, but Faggy having run wider, gets on the throttle a little earlier, means he does have the pace coming down the back curve. And Svoboda just doesn't have the grip to stay on the circuit. They're just understeering clean off the track. These conditions absolutely treacherous for these poor little Porsche Cup cars. I don't know what the race director was thinking about allowing this one to go ahead, but I'm glad he did, because this is absolute pure entertainment out here. Catching onto the back of them. And all drivers just struggling for traction as Joe Wilson and Hudson side by side through 130R. Wilson running wide onto the painted surface. There's not going to be any grip out there for you. They come down into the final chicane. Wilson getting it stopped on the apex under braking, and in the end was a decent move. I have to question, perhaps was there an advantage gained for running out wide at 130R, but I think that can potentially be forgiven in these treacherous conditions. As we've got yellow flags for Svoboda, finds themselves in the wall. What's happened through the first two corners? Looks okay through the first corner. Is it just a little bit of curb? Or just a little bit over eager on the throttle coming out of the second corner and into the wall? That sees them dropping back down into P15. It's becoming a real battle of attrition out there. Drivers losing and gaining positions more on just a slight lapse of concentration in the spin, more than any real overtaking opportunities. There's Christian Faggy recovering from an earlier incident, still finds himself in P5 with just all of the incidents seen ahead of him. As we can see two yellow flags out on our track map. Look at that, 3. There's Faggy catching up to Eklund. He's finding grip out there where others are struggling. And yeah, this really one of those races where driver feel, driver experience, getting that understanding of where the car wants to go, and how the grip, whether the front or the rear tyre has got the grip, and how you want to control the car. Drivers who have that feeling, that instinctive driving talent, they're going to be the ones who benefit here. Feeling the conditions lap by lap as the sun slowly disappears here at Suzuka. And Busso GT makes their way past the Moore. The Moore just running wide And the second spoon. And this allows Busso up into P15 in this race. Mr. Moore dropping even further back as Rex gets by. As Faggy continues to chase Eklund. That gap down to now 0.5 seconds. And 8 tenths in just a single sector shows the pace that this driver has at this moment in time. You see the drivers taking ever so slightly different lines to what you would in the dry, tucking the car in, keeping it close to the apex and getting on the throttle later as the grip is just so less that you can't just apply the throttle and allow yourself to run wide out of the corner. You have to keep it tight and basically straight line the exit. Eklund running wide, and I'm not sure if Faggy just trying to avoid going into the back of Eklund there, or just a little over-eager wanting to go for an overtake, but gets the car into a big slide, and I imagine having to apply a whole load of opposite lock to save that one. And I think if we were to go on board now with Christian Faggy, you can just see the challenging conditions once you get close up behind another driver. Just that spray coming off the back makes it hard to judge the distance to the car ahead. It means you need to get ever so much closer and really out of the slipstream to judge whether you can go for an overtake or not. It's really once you get below this 0.5 second range where the spray into the windshield gets a little bit out of control, as I think the rain does seem to be dying off just a little bit though. Conditions drying here. There's a dry line starting to appear on the track as we've got a big spin there for Messiah. What on earth happened there through the final corner? Already starting to snap through the start of the corner. Just goes midway through the corner. Looked like that car was already getting a slide on through the corner, and well, didn't get it under control, and a little bump in the track I think just finished it off, and that's quite heavy damage to the front of the car. And Chris Wright wheeling in Messiah has done well after that first lap incident, now up into P8, some way off of McCarthy, still in P2 at the moment, but is picking off the drivers between them. And this is really damage limitation now for Chris Wright. He needs to just pick his way through and bring down that points deficit that he will have to Sam McCarthy at the checkered flag. There's Christian Faggy up ahead. Both still onto the back of Eklund. And these drivers now all seeming to have some more of a feel for the conditions than they had at the start of the race. Ooh, that's a big slide on the run up to spoon for Christian Faggy. Well, solid commitment to an attempt for an overtake, but I think just carrying way too much speed as it already starts to get sliding. And well, I think just not wanting to get on the brakes while the car was already out of control, and does well just to throw the car past Eklund, avoid any chance of an impact of a incident there, and continues on his way, gives back the position, and can continue that fight again. He's not lost too much time. As Chris Wright has found his way past Messiah. We'll see if we can find out where that happened. They come to spoon curve. Or, as you know, that's through the hairpin as Messiah just gets all out of sorts. And that allows Chris Wright through. As Messiah fights it back. But looks a little bit too far back to really have anything to say about that as we approach spoon. And yep, in the end, Messiah just has to settle for slotting back behind Chris Wright. Chris Wright moves up into P7. after his earlier incident with Busso. Steve Goosens trying to climb his way back up the order. Is now down in P16 on the back of Florent de Moor. And you can see that dry line is getting more and more defined on the track. The drivers now knowing where they need to put the car in order to get the best possible traction. As Steve Goosens goes offline, and he's going to find that there's not as much grip out there, struggles to get the car slowed down, and has to straight line the braking and slot back in behind the wall. But he's showing that he's got the pace, just needs to find the opportunity to get by. In these conditions, often easier to get past under traction than it is under braking, as you do have to go quite considerably offline to size up an overtake. And doing that, you just reduce the amount of grip that your tyres have on the track. Chris Wright has caught up to another car. The car ahead is Bernhard Bendel. Is just extended out, not quite as close as Chris has been. There's Joe Wilson having a battle with Harry Redhead. They come through 130 out. Joe Wilson struggling to keep it on track. Bumps over the apex curb. Final chicane. And he comes down to start his 10th lap of this race in the slipstream of Redhead. Not quite close enough to try and effect a move at this point as they head into the S's. Though getting closer there, as it does seem Joe Wilson just a bit more confidence into the first couple of corners as they come through the S's. It does seem like Joe Wilson is a bit more confident with the grip that he has under the car, is able to get on the throttle and carry more speed through these tight twisty bends. But just running slightly offline there is going to be picking up more water on those tyres, reducing the grip he has available. And that's what I was saying, is you just need to try and stay on this dry line, especially through these sweeping sections. As you go offline, pick up a little more water on the tyres, reduce that amount of grip available. Makes it harder to carry the speed through. This could be an opportunity under braking into the hairpin. Joe Wilson thinks better of it. Not a good place to go for a lunge in these conditions. The driver ahead decides to turn in. You haven't really got much of an opportunity to back out once you commit. But Joe Wilson right up behind Harry Redhead now. There's going to be an opportunity here into Spoon. Well, not anymore, as he goes off onto the grass. Manages to get it back on and under control. And great for Spoon. Actually gets the car around the corner nicely. I felt almost certain that the car was going to end off the track as there's contact between Wilson and Redhead, as Redhead got into a real tank slapper there for the second part of Spoon. Redhead goes out onto the painted section on the outside of the corner, tries to bury the throttle to stay ahead of Wilson, and well, that just sent the car spinning across the path of Wilson, and perhaps would have been more sensible just to give up the position there for Redhead, but doesn't lose too much out of it. Only down into P11, just one place to Wilson. There's Goosens, struggling for traction through Spoon Curve. Is getting close again to the back of Florent de Moor. Florent de Moor proving how much the rain has died down here at Suzuka with his windscreen wipers turned off. So that gives us an idea of what these conditions are like out there. Steve Goosens will those wipers firmly on as he's in the spray of the car ahead. I mean, I say it's referencing the conditions, it might just be that Demore is a degenerate who drives in bonnet cam. But, you know, let's not cast aspersions. As Goosen's especially close to the back of Demore now, carrying the speed through the first two corners. Really, you can see the drivers who have the confidence in the car going through the S's, just carrying so much more speed, getting that nose pointed into the apex, and just carrying the speed through the corner, because it's those cars who are a little bit more tentative, just a little bit more understeer through the corners. Also a battle in between M and Rex into the chicane. Daniel Rex, who carrying quite a bit of damage to the front of that car. It won't be good with the long straights we have here at Suzuka, but showing decent pace in this race, holding on to P14 at the moment. Up in P6. It is Chris Wright in the team Porsche Cup races every Tuesday at 8 PM. Tell your friends. Okay. Well, I mean, as you can see, he is correct. Now chasing down Christian Faggy, and just 0.6 seconds off. And not far behind Sam McCarthy now in terms of position, so that deficit, as I say that, may have just given Chris Wright a little bit of the old commentator's curse as he disappears off into the gravel, and that is going to neutralise his attack on Faggy for now. He drops back to over 2 seconds. And Steve Goosens is now looking up the inside. Actually, no, that camera angle was extremely deceptive. He's not looking at the inside, he's in fact quite far back. But he's closing in. As Moore having to be a bit tentative on the throttle there, running wide through the second corner. Gave an opportunity to Goosens, but Demore shuts the door on it. And this battle in between the two of them has brought Smith into this battle, who now just sits just 0.4 seconds behind Goosens, and with a little bit more aggression might be able to bring something to this battle, as yellow flags out for Demore. Well, that's not what I meant by aggression from Smith, as Demore spins across the track in front of Smith. Just the rear snaps away from him and trying to get back on track. Applying the throttle while the rear wheels were still on the grass, snaps the car around, and that is Demore dropping considerably back. As Busso now looking up the inside of Harry Redhead as they come through 130R. And Redhead taking a lot of the apex curb there at 130R. That has compromised him, caused him to run out wide, but not enough for Busso to be able to draw alongside. Has to stick behind for now. They come back down towards the start-finish straight. As our leader has started the final lap of this race, and as a driver we haven't spoken about much. Johan Leffe has been leading this one from lights to flag and is currently 23 seconds ahead of Sam McCarthy. It's been a real dominant drive. As Bernhard Bendel looks to find a way past Messiah to come up towards the Degners. Not a typical overtaking place, without some supreme bravery. as our race leader comes around the final corner to take the checkered flag here at Suzuka and take a well-deserved win. It was an absolutely dominant display. To say, some 24 seconds ahead of our second place driver Sam McCarthy. Congratulations to Johan Leffe. And to bring it home in P2 will be Sam McCarthy, who will do wonders for his championship position tonight. Bring it home in P2. He comes to cross the line and take second place in this race. And P3 will be Balazs here. We had a little bit of a battle at the start of this race, but in the end ended up quite a quiet one. And he will finish P3, some 13 seconds adrift of Sam McCarthy. And P4 is Simon Eklund, then Christian Faggy, and Chris Wright, some way off, now in P6. Followed by Ray Messiah and Bernhard Bendel, as we have a post-finish line pile-up. P9 is Marco Lorenzon, and finishing the top 10 is Joe Wilson, who, well, let's just move away from that before we incriminate too many drivers. Busso GT crosses the line, P11, followed closely by Harry Redhead. There's Alex M. That's coming around the final chicane now to P13 in tonight's race. And our final driver on the lead lap, finish P14, will be Steve Goosens in the Amazing Goose Car. And, well, I mean, that sums up the carnage that we had for this race, or at least at the very start of it. In the end, the drivers gave us some fantastic racing as well. But congratulations to all of our drivers. And commiserations to some of those absolute muppets who managed to get themselves disqualified after the checkered flag. And I believe actually that will, well, actually I think they may have just had the disqualifications taken away by an admin, because that would be a very embarrassing way to end their race. But thank you very much for watching, everyone. We will not have a stream for you next week when the Porsche Cup will be going to, and again, I really should look at this before I start these sentences. We're going to Zolder, which I am disappointed that I will be missing. But we will return with a stream when, in 2 weeks' time, the Porsche Cup heads to Donington. So, until that time, have a very lovely rest of your week. And see you on track next time. Good night.